what software was able to do was absolutely amazing. And I guess that kind of got me hooked into cloud, SaaS, and tech. All of that got me curious. Fast forward a few years, I ended up joining the business and then becoming the first ever CRO for the business. And then just kind of had this magical ride, right, where we took the business from, Australian startup to all over the globe, over to the UK, to the US, um, Australia, New Zealand, of course, and just kind of really, again, as much as I now say I was the first ever CRO, going back, I didn't know what CRO truly meant, to be honest with you.
I was just snooping on your LinkedIn. It looked like you were the CRO at the time when it went to unicorn status. So it was valued at over 1 billion US dollars. So how does a CRO do that?
What does a CRO do? I often used to joke around is that CRO actually means Chief Repeat Officer. So you repeat a lot of same things.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks and Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
Well, this feels a little bit strange. I was actually thinking that I could mention that rather than drinking water, I'm drinking coffee, because we usually record our podcast in the afternoon of the UK time, but we have a guest, Ricky from New Zealand.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sounds like a freaking chat or date show or something like that, doesn't it?
I thought that's what it was. That's why I signed up.
Oh, okay. I prepared a different set of questions for you. Well, let's see how your inbox responds after this appearance. Maybe it will fully transform into some form of date outcome. Anyway, Ricky, so Ricky, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction to you, actually, because I know you're involved in a few things, primarily CEO of Deep Space, as well as some investing initiatives and very interesting background. So yeah, I will let you do the magic.
Awesome, mate. Thank you, Owen and Martin, once again for having me. I'll keep it brief. So studied mechatronics engineering, of all things. So that was all about robotics, automation. A lot of people still don't know what it means. So I guess always been curious and always, wanted to tinker with things, break things, and maybe fix things, but mostly break things. Ended up working for a company called Schneider Electric after the university for 10 years, who you may have heard of. So big electrical company, did building management system. So worked on a lot of large construction sites, data centers, hospitals, prisons, and all those type of projects. From there, I was running a project as a team as well as services team. And then going back to about 2010, I'm dating myself here now. If you recall, iPads and iPhones were just coming out. And then the field service technicians would often come back to the office to do paperwork, right? So I was like, there's got to be a better way, surely, in this day and age. And then that's when I ran into simPro at one of the trade shows. And I looked quite, obviously got curious. And then we launched that within the business, and the return on investment was amazing. I had to spend more money buying devices back then than the actual software. But what software was able to do was absolutely amazing. And I guess that kind of got me hooked into cloud, SaaS, and tech. And it was kind of around the same time, like Salesforce was coming up. We had launched Salesforce within Schneider Electric. So all of that got me curious. Fast forward a few years, I ended up joining the business and then becoming the first ever CRO for the business. And then just kind of had this magical ride, right, where we took the business from, Australian startup to all over the globe, over to the UK, to the US, Australia, New Zealand, of course, and just kind of really, again, as much as I now say I was the first ever CRO, going back, I didn't know what CRO truly meant, to be honest with you. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But yeah, fun, man. Had a great time and made a lot of good friends. And after that, we finished up. We started up our own, little fund called Venture On. And through that, we wanted to kind of stay close to what we know best, which is construction, tech. Came across two really clever founders, Luke and Michael over at Deep Space, kind of made an investment, but our approach was also capital is one thing, but you also got to bring that operational expertise, right? And so much of the business is about distribution. So for me, it was like, how can I help the next generation of Aussie Kiwi founders, take it to the world? So that's where I find myself. But yeah, man, I'll pause there and hand it back to you.
Yeah. Is it called, sorry, Martin, is it called a, so it's not like venture capital, maybe venture operator?
Private equity, that's the word.
It's, PE, venture fund, venture studio, operating partners.
The
operating
name
group.
is not that relevant, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more about the model. It's more about just going back to what you're passionate about and basically more so about what we can do for others, right? I think it comes from a genuine place of wanting to assist others and really just want to, taking on the world is something that's kind of ingrained in us because we're so far removed from the rest of the world. So something about that is quite intriguing and exciting for us.
Oh, and since you asked about it, I will ask one more here. So from founders' point of view, the founders that you speak to from Venture On point of view, what are the pros and cons for them when they are engaging with conversations with you or more traditional VC venture firm which is about to invest in them?
Sure. Look, great question. And really, I will concentrate on our pros rather than cons for obvious reasons. But pros is you're dealing with people who've kind of been there, done that. Operators have just come out of those seats, right? So it's myself, my partner, Shauna Curtis and Steve, people who were literally had taken the business from inception all the way through. We've gone multi-geo. We've kind of, from a product lens, from a go-to-market lens, from an execution lens, raising funding, exiting to PE. So having gone through the whole cycle versus traditional VCs, and also just to kind of come back onto this, very, very selective about who we invest and how many we can invest. We obviously are. Limitation is the bandwidth. There's only so many investments we can make, right? Because we take the operator's seat. Traditional VC model, you invest a whole bunch into number of companies. You hope that few of them outliers will go into becoming unicorn and the rest 80 or 90 may not get the same level of attention. So very different in that regards. This is very much an operator led that comes with, so some would argue it's smart money. Some would say it's dumb money. We leave that up to the founders. So for us, it's all about, mate, what we call beer test. If you get on with you and you like us and we like what you're building and we generally think that we can help you, we're interested.
How are you thinking about ownership then? Like 10%, 20%, 30%? Like what's the idea? Is there a playbook here?
There isn't. I think, again, it's very much what is the right thing for the founders and the business. There is no real, again, because we're not financially incentivized in any such way, right? So we don't think about it in those kind of metrics. For us, it's about what makes sense, how much money capital we're deploying versus how much also sweat we're putting in, right? So there's a combination of a few things. But yeah, there's no hard numbers.
Nice. Okay, Ricky, so could you, when your time at simPro, I was just snooping on your LinkedIn. It looked like you were the CRO at the time when it went to unicorn status. So it was valued at over $1 billion US dollars. So how does the CRO do that? Very, very open question.
How long have you got?
Yeah. Maybe you can also start like at what point did you get involved, and like what was the journey like? What worked, what didn't work?
Yeah, of course, if you recall what I just said earlier. So I was kind of one of the early customers or early cloud customers of simPro. So my association with simPro goes back to that time. When I joined the business, it was just around the Series A point, roughly just, got to about that $10 million mark. So I'd kind of done a lot of the grunty work in some sense, but we kind of went from multi-geo and really kind of went from that stage to over 100 million in a relatively short space of time, you could argue. To your other question, what does a CRO do? I often used to joke around is that CRO actually means Chief Repeat Officer. So you repeat a lot of same things. And the reason I used to say that is if I think 0 to 1, 1 to 5, or 5 to 10, or however you want to break it down, different stages, different strengths. But I think around the $10 million mark, you really need a lot of button-up processes. So all the way through from what does it look like by the time you get the lead, so brand awareness, all the way through to closing, onboarding, CS. So really it's just creating what now everyone talks about, funnel, or, the distribution funnel, or, the bow tie. A lot of that wasn't, you've got to remember, this is going back 8, 9, 10 years ago. So a lot of that for me and many others around me, the level of knowledge that now exists, there weren't really too many podcasts. It wasn't a thing. LinkedIn wasn't LinkedIn that you see today. There wasn't really SaaSter or anything like that, right? So you're having to learn a lot of things, and having an engineering mindset. For me, it was like getting fixated with a number and then going really deep to go, okay, if you're getting 100 leads, why wouldn't that convert to 50 demos? And then why wouldn't we convert that to 25 customers? And then what would that mean if those continue to be our customers in 5 years' time? So in your head, you're kind of just going back to the first principle, like lifetime value, CAC, funnel, conversion rate. So CRO for me is literally a role that brings all the different functions or discipline together right the way through from brand awareness all the way through to cross-sell and upsell and everything in the middle.
So it's not about selling that much. It's about like reverse engineering the process and getting to the right answers of why things work, why they don't work.
That's a really good question. And the reason it's a good question is a lot of folks, especially on LinkedIn and just some of these talking sessions over time that I've done, there's a strong association in their mind that CRO equals VP of sales. And yes, sales is equally important, but sales is only a function or a part of your overall objectives or overall business strategy. As I mentioned, it's very much all the way through from how we're going to get people in the funnel, landing on your website, whatever it is, right? The different distribution segmentation based on what your audience base is, all the way through. How am I going to keep them all the way through? And what additional products will I sell to them? And then onboarding and account management and CS. So it's a lot more than just selling. Yeah.
With different. Yeah, I guess it's easy to put them in the same bucket, but like you say, it's actually a much broader
holistic
scope.
approach.
Yeah. Hey, Ricky, what was some of the? Maybe we could like just briefly. You could tell us like what were some of the things that worked with simPro, and then are those things still relevant today now? And maybe you can draw on some stuff that you've experienced with deep space and scaling more in the construction tech scene in 2025.
Again, go back. So remember, world was very different pre-COVID. What used to work really, really well for us is that we have field sales team. So if you happen to be in London, if you happen to be in New York, if you happen to be in Auckland or Christchurch or, Sydney or Melbourne, there would be a simPro rep coming out to see you, sitting down with you face to face, working through your business workflow, guiding you through the process. And that was a huge win, right? When you think about it, the reason being, and I think AEC is all like that really, any operational tool is more about change management, not just the tool itself, right? Martin, you and I were talking about this just before we jumped on this podcast, and how you looked at different software for your business. And it's the same thing as like, this is my workflow. What does your tool do? And do we, how do we match that up? I'm willing to change things. So it was so much easier doing that in person, because you would walk into their office, you'd often see like, people doing different things. You could easily work through different workflows. So that worked really, really well for us. Outbound in the early days, it worked really well for us, like actually cold calling. You'll see it often tradies like driving on the road and like taking their utes and vans numbers and then calling through and then talking to them about it and then following up with the demo. Trade shows were really powerful. As I mentioned, that's how I came across simPro in the first instance. You fast forward that to 2025, a lot of those channels have been saturated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like COVID has also meant that a lot of this is happening online, which is absolutely fine. It just, I still don't have the ability to get my hand across the screen and to your side and actually shake hands, right? So straight away, the trust process is longer. You're fitting in a lot more. There is this mindset that we have to be back to back. So therefore, the ability to slow down. So all that means is that, yes, you're doing way more demos in a day. You're perhaps way more busy. But AEC in particular doesn't work that way, because people are very mindful of the change it will deliver to your business. So I think that's what's made it harder. Digital channels, paid campaigns, content. We can talk about AI and what that's done to the world, right? So I think all of those channels have become really, really saturated. So what used to work versus now doesn't quite work. But yeah, a few things to address there.
You said something very interesting, which is the trust process is longer. My feeling is that if that's the case, you need to provide this ratio, people say, speed to value, very, very high. It has to have a very high ratio. So would you agree? And if yes, how to do it? As it's not so simple to show the value, especially in workflow solutions, which take time, which might take different third parties within a company to get engaged. Like how do you do it then?
Man, great question. Again, like time to value or the aha moment that everyone talks about, right? So I can't really speak to point solutions because I've never really been too close to any type of those sort of type of solutions. simPro, Deep Space, they're very sophisticated, multiple workflows type of solutions, right? So it's about mapping it out. It's about talking to different stakeholders in a business. To your point, it does take longer, but the way we're building Deep Space is somewhat very similar to the playbook that we rolled out at simPro. I had a lot to do with, is that we get back to the basics. So construction cannot be done online, right? Like I haven't found a way. I don't know if anyone else has, but the post about ChatGPT, help me finish this building, it's the same type of thing, right? So you go back to very simple, basic core principle. You go through their business, you sit down with multiple stakeholders, you go through what challenges they currently have with their current workflows, which is usually disconnected, right? AC suffers with change adoption. So there's a lot of spreadsheets, Dropbox, WhatsApp, multiple point solutions. So disconnect is there. So how do you show value? It really is about, okay, if this is how you're doing it, and if we were to bring in efficiency and we mapped out your workflow within our software, this is what it would look like. So discovery, I've been really, really big on that. So sales discovery processes are hugely important, making sure that you're touching every single person, and then overlaying that with what our solution is capable of doing by showcasing, well, this is what tech can do if you were to introduce it to your business. But it's very different to a point solution.
So Ricky, what tactics have you seen work so far with Deep Space when it comes to go to market? Is it like, do you have specific channels which you experience success on, which could be online and offline?
Yeah.
c- I mean, you hinted on a couple there when you said about understanding workflows and so on and so forth. And maybe how do you actually physically get in front of a customer?
Okay. Good question. Happy to give all the secrets away and happy to share the knowledge that I have gained over the years. But I think just going back to, for me, what has worked and what has worked for multiple times across multiple regions is the ability to pick up the phone, talking to the right person at the other end and giving some value right away. So I think it was you and many others who talk about AI SDRs and construction tech. And I think it has a place, but it will never replace the ability to actually pick up the phone and talk to them. Also, like, so founders' brand is huge. Some of the things we have done historically has some credibility. So therefore, right away, you don't come across as someone who's just hounding you and trying to take away your time, right? So we try and deliver value from the time we have that initial conversation. So that's hugely important. And yeah, like for us, outreach is a huge part of what we're doing. That works really well for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the founder-led one. I think I say that most time I speak to people, but I think having a presence and breaking down, like you said, longer trust timescales that it takes, like you're instantly building trust with potential customers when they see you or see your face every day with some something interesting, hopefully to read.
Yeah, I think on this point, actually, on the SDRs, because if you are driving the sales directly through you, that's great if you're good in selling. But how do you teach people on a scale to do these sales in the right way? I guess that's the key point to from 0 to 1 to scale the sales that.
And by the way, the AI SDRs will really just do the heavy lifting. They're not going to do like the sales calls with people and close a deal. They're probably going to help you qualify customers and perhaps make you more productive when it comes to segmentation and identifying appropriate people. But yeah, I wouldn't, like I said to you, Ricky, I don't think I'll be putting one on a sales call.
I spoke with
No,
one
you're 100%.
a few days ago, and I asked her to call me after 5:30, and she didn't.
Yeah. She
Well,
did
the
it?
AI one?
Oh, no. Really?
No.
Oh, man. That's
Damn.
disappointing. So you won't be buying that one. Yeah, you're right. I think AI has its place without a doubt, right? I think we all agree in terms of account research and a lot of the things it can do is amazing. But yeah, I think just going back to what works is hugely important. And then Martin, to answer your question, 0 to 1 requires a very different skill set. I'm a firm believer that has to be done by founders. Right. So I treat myself as a founder in the business, and a lot of it's down to myself and co-founders to make sure that does happen. And I think with the, going back to the AI system, there's so much of the heavy lifting or the background work that you can leverage AI for. So you do have much more bandwidth than you used to 5-10 years ago. So I think that's the advantage of AI. I think the skills you do require, I'm a firm believer that if you can get 3 reps, you can get 30 reps, and then you can get 100 reps and 300 reps because you then have an enablement machine. So that's something, again, go back to the CRO world. So not only do you do revenue in terms of marketing, sales, and CS, but, enablement, partner enablement, right? When I talk about enablement, I'm talking about reps and AE enablements. I'm talking about tech stack. So RevOps also comes under it. So then building out the processes that then, if you can do something nowadays with human intervention 10 times, you can then repeat that with 100 or 200 times, right? So it's doing the hard stuff first and doing it manually, and then kind of mapping out each one of those processes and making sure that you're building your enablement book. And these are all the lessons, I guess, you learn when you're being part of a business that's kind of gone, reasonably sized business, and you bring back those learnings into an early stage business, is that you're building out the playbook from very early on. So I think we're in a position where we go, I think at that point in time, if the founders are tapped out and we can't handle the number of demos in a day, that's when we would bring external sales reps and then let them replicate the same process.
Mhm.
Ricky, what's your view on like when you do get to that point where perhaps the founder can't manage so many demos? What's your I don't know if it's blanket advice, but maybe just your opinion on actually hiring sales rep internally versus using like someone externally to do that for you? Because I've noticed a few of these, and it makes me think like I don't know how customers perceive when they're getting calls from one person who's selling multiple softwares, because the customers, especially within AEC, you're targeting, I guess it depends on what level, but they're like the same people to some extent. So
Yeah, good question. I can't really speak for everyone, but what's worked for us is maintaining control. And I think you may be talking about resellers who then end up selling a whole bunch of software. I think there's a place, but I think you can't do the hard work. I think, let's rewind that. I think you've got to do a lot of the hard work yourself before you have a very repeatable playbook, before you go down the path of resellers. For me, it's about hiring the right people with the right hiring profile at the right, and that changes as you go through different stages of the business. I think a lot of people over-index on domain experience versus the true sales experience.
Hmm.
I think for us in particular, if you look at my background, you look at Luke and Michael's background, we have a pretty solid domain expertise or domain experience, you would argue. So when we do choose to then hire external sales reps, for us, it'll be very clear as to what we're looking for. We're looking for people who have had the ability to come in and absorb that knowledge through enablement, right? Listen to a lot of video calls, which we all now have access to. A lot of AI note takers, good CRM notes, and then take on that and absorb it and learn all of it, and then really just bring in the good SaaS software sales practice, which is very different to, getting an estimator or, project managers. And I'm not suggesting they can't switch, but in my experience, having hired many reps over the years, I've not seen too many make that journey or that transition successfully. So I'm just going to lean back on what I know.
so that means you just so I understand, you're saying that the domain expertise is, in your opinion, is not as necessary as someone that has got like grit and wants to succeed as a salesperson.
I'm a firm believer that domain experience or the domain knowledge can be passed on, but the sales, especially in software sales, the whole waterfall and the metrics and the regimented process that you have to run of selling is something you should bring to the table, especially if you are post-founders. Like, if you're one of the first sales reps coming into the business, because founders already have that domain expertise. So you need to try and complement that.
The fire in the belly, as we say on this.
Yeah. Someone like you, mate.
I mean, yeah. Maybe throw the podcast in front.
Okay. What about how founders should be identifying the right chief revenue officer who is going to drive the sales department? What's the metrics? How do we recruit the right person?
And also, Ricky, like I would be very interested in like comp package for a CRO, for a chief revenue officer.
Jeez, you're firing all the hard ones. All over at the same time. Okay, let's take a look one by one. Bringing in CRO too early is the death of any business, right? I think you can't do that. CRO is a role that you bring in when business has good foundational structure. I often see the founders make this classic mistake of bringing a CRO in because that's what they get told or that's what they listen to or hear, whatever it may be. I'm a firm believer that you don't really need a CRO. Sub 5-10 million, probably not 10 million ARR. You're just not ready. Right? Bring in a good VP of sales, bring in marketing, right? Run it as functional, and then let them roll up to you. CRO is someone when you've got really high volume, a sophisticated engine and you
Mhm.
need someone who wants to then tie it, or you're someone who needs to tie it all together. So therefore, you don't have the leaky bucket, you don't have the churn at the back end. You want to make sure that you've got enough volume coming in through the top of the funnel to feed the sales machine. You're overlaying it with partnerships and channel partners. You've got, diversifying of your source channels. So all of that doesn't really come up until you've got to 10 million. Sophisticated GDM engine doesn't quite exist, right? It's almost like bringing in Lewis Hamilton and then saying, drive my Fiat, right? Like,
I love that.
in a
I love
school
an
zone.
analogy. Yeah, I
Right?
love it.
It's
I
just
love
not going to
that.
work. So you've got to be really mindful. Just because it sounds good, you really are just bringing in people who've got, and I think this is where the mismatch in expectations happen, because people go, I thought if I bought someone like that,
you will fix
going back to
everything.
Lewis Hamilton, yeah, well, and then you're like, well, he hasn't got the resources, he hasn't got the investment, he hasn't got the car,
He hasn't got a
to
product, maybe.
hasn't got the
Great
product, and like he is driving his car in a 50-kilometer school zone, so he's got limitations. So you just got to be really mindful. I will often tell people, I sit on a few boards too, is that right people right at the right stage. Otherwise, you're setting them up to failure, and you also will be extremely disappointed. I think your other part of the question was, what
How
should
much?
they look like?
Yeah.
I
I
think
think what
I thought you would have forgotten by then.
Ricky, I think my point
Yeah.
was that I'd figure numbers. I mean, like, my question was really going what are you offering these people in terms of like salary and equity? Like, you don't have to give exact figures, but do you have to consider both? Is it like performance based? Like just a general. You don't have to give us exact.
Yeah, look, good question. Okay, let's run this play. So if they're coming in at $10 million, you may want to, for the first couple of years, just give them reasonably good, they're going to demand good size base salary, and then a good variable, right? Which is based on if you hit our annual numbers, there's a good bonus structure. I think if they are that good and you want to retain their services, I firmly believe, not just for CRO, for anybody who is helping you take your business forward, should have ownership in the business, right? So whether that's through ESOP or whatever different mechanisms that exist, I think it works for both parties. But that could be said about a good developer or a BDR or whoever it may be, right? So I think that's important for both the business and the employee to feel like they've got skin in the game.
Okay.
Okay.
Apart from revenue, is there any other metrics that founders should be looking at when thinking about CROs? Like $10 million, you said.
Yeah, not just revenue. I think do you have a repeatable motion by then? Like, do you have a channel that's really kind of working? Is it paid media that works, or is it the content that works? Is there outreach that's working? Is your product now refined enough where you're getting good usage metrics out of from the customers? Do you have good engagement scores? So I think it's not so much about the role as like, what is that one problem that you're trying to work through? And therefore, do I have people on the bus who can fix it? If I don't, do I need to level up my team? Also, as a founder, am I more product or technical led at that point in time? And then if I bought in a CRO, would I be able to leverage from that skill set? Because if you bring someone in and you're still kind of going 3 months later, I am better than them at doing their role, then definitely is not the right move. However, if your strengths are more into product and dev, and you've done really wonderfully well and stretched yourself to get the business to that point, I think you could benefit from bringing someone in who lives in that world and takes that pressure off your plate. So really just comes down to it's a man in the mirror type of a conversation, right?
What about founders who are at these earlier stages on the journey and they don't have this content figured out, the marketing figured out yet to this scalable moment? Would you have any advice for them?
Find really good. Find find someone who can really kind of help you. Maybe bring them on as some sort of, whether it be in a board member capacity, There is some great talent that exists now in a fractional capacity. You could try those. Or if you have the ability and you know what you're looking for in terms of hiring, go hire a good content person, go hire a good, salesperson. Really just, I think a lot of it, it's hard. I find it really difficult to give vanilla advice because it really just depends on the individuals and their skill set. Is if your co-founder is really good at marketing, then let them keep owning the marketing. If you're really good at product, then you've got a gap in sales. So go get a gun in terms of, director of sales or VP of sales. But yeah, it does help to surround yourself with those who have been on the journey where you want to get to. So if you think you're getting to 5 million and your goal is like, okay, I can see sales getting to the 50, try and get someone in whatever capacity who's been there, done that. And the only reason I say that is you're going to hit so many potholes along the way. So many. If they can help you even steer clear of at least even 20, 30, 50%, like it's going to save you a lot of time. Distribution at certain point is everything, right? So if you can compress the timeline to do that, it's massive.
You're unpacking things very well. I wanted to ask one more on this. Content and marketing. People from outside of the industry, AEC, tech, are they useful or are they useless for content and marketing? Hiring people from outside of the industry.
Yeah. I love you guys because you guys kind of speak my language. I'm pretty direct, as you would have seen some of my LinkedIn posts. I don't think anyone is useless to that effect, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean is can they make their successful transition? According to the stats, this is where most people, you may find it fascinating. A lot of people think the VP of sales needs to have a really strong domain experience, but a lot of the data actually suggests the marketing team or your head of marketing actually has to have more domain experience than the sales head. So the reason being your messaging, right? Your website, your newsletters, your PPC ads, your landing pages, they do need to hit the mark. Now, some would argue that in 2025, there is so much knowledge that exists in AI LLMs. So can one successfully transition? But I don't think people can make that transition. Martin goes back to, is a marketer willing to go and shake hands, sit down with these contractors and understand what they do and what they speak and the lingo and everything else? But if I had my way, I'll try and bring people in who've had exposure to blue collar / adjacent industries. So if someone kind of come from logistics or field services, and I'm sure they can make a very successful transition. But someone who's only done like B2B horizontal SaaS and they come into ASC world, it's usually a shock, right? Especially in the early stage because everything's different. The things that you and I like, even on LinkedIn, is not necessarily what horizontal SaaS picks up, right? So there's got to be that domain leniency somewhere.
Yeah, I would say you can always tell someone who has got domain expertise within marketing or content marketing front. The person that doesn't will always write about how unproductive the construction industry is. Everyone knows that that's just old hat information. And so I think you can sniff these people out from a mile away. Plus, also, with AI, I think it will churn out content that just talks about how the construction industry hasn't digitized for centuries and blah, blah, blah. So I think that having the domain expertise to look at that and go, Jesus, that is not good. That's not good content is very important here.
And to this bucket, though, and I would add also labor shortage is always post about labor shortage.
Same old aging workforce, labor shortage, right? Yeah, all of those kind of things. Some of it's true, but it's been rinsed and repeated so often. And I think, as we know, LLMs are really good at guessing the next word. So just to add to that, I read something really interesting yesterday, is that 72% of the content that now exists on the internet is now AI, is using some sort of AI assistance. And 28% that's now using straight human intellect is actually outperforming the AI content, right? So I think that leans back to our point, is that if your marketers have that strong domain expertise, they probably can cut through the noise. Whereas if you just are using AI like everyone else, guess what's going to happen? So to me, that's important.
I'm actually
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
looking for, I don't know if something like that exists or not yet, but like a Google Chrome plugin that marks AI generated content in yellow, for example, or in red, like when you scroll LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be lovely to see.
That would exist already. You can.
There's an idea.
There's an idea.
Yeah, there's tools that they use to, people use them. I remember when I hired a virtual assistant to do some stuff for me, and she was telling me, because I guess that's what they do, is they AI produce everything, and then they put it into like this tool called like Killbot or something, and it just like humanizes the content. It's like, this is what you guys do.
Yeah. Stop the plagiarizing.
No, exactly. Ricky, could you just talk to us briefly about? We came across. Someone shared this interesting thing that I hadn't really thought about before, but about like touch points within a sales cycle and how there needs to be multiple when it needs to be continuous and so on and so forth throughout each step of the sales cycle. They were a marketer. So, yeah, could you give us maybe, have you seen this, one, and two, are there any signs that you can see from whether it could be just from what you're hearing or even what the metrics might say of when the go-to-market motion might be breaking down?
Are you talking about multi-threading? Is that what you mean about Touchpoint? Just to be
no,
clear?
not
because
multi-threading may come into. I mean more from like, okay, so from your initial contact and then you having a call with them, like how close do you stay to them between like that call, the first step to the second step to the first step to the fourth step to the close, and so on and so forth?
It depends how close they're holding their phone while video conferencing them.
Explain this. That one went straight over my head.
Instead of calling them, just do a video conference, and that's apparently the new way of cold calling.
Right.
Oh, really?
Well,
apparently, straight just FaceTime.
On a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. I think once you get to that post that $10 million mark, I think you have so many data points within your data set, right? They can really kind of look into. I was very fortunate that I had access to amazing tools like Gong, which allowed me to really kind of drill in to go, if we have this many conversation with this stakeholders, and if there's, but when your first touch point and second touch point, if it's more than 2 days, the chances of winning or losing kind of double, all of those kind of things. So, but I think in AEC in particular, you have to be really mindful of, customers' balance in terms of their work and life balance, right? Like there's some of the hardest working people on this planet, very jammed in terms of what they're having to fit in. So a lot of it just boils down to always have, my golden rule is always have an action point. As soon as you walk away from any touch point, what is the next thing? Now, if you can secure the next meeting as early as tomorrow or the day after, do so. Don't ever rush it just because you feel like you're getting them back on, because that's the fastest way to lose trust. So no real massive tips there, Owen, but I think, again, just leave with, good CTA, make sure you're not rushing the process, do the right thing. Construction is all about building trust, delivering on your promise. So if you're going to rush it just to get the deal across the line, you run the risk of churn coming through.
Cool.
What about tool stack?
Tech stack?
Tech stack, yes. What are the tools that are absolutely necessary to use right now?
Oh, good question. I think everyone would argue this, you got to have ChatGPT or one of these kind of LLMs, have a paid membership for a very obvious reason. Good CRM, right? I think a lot of early stage businesses, without really kind of suggesting which one's the best, but whatever works best for you and whatever fits in your budget. Make sure you get into good data hygiene practices very, very early on. So that's equally important, not just about having the CRM. Really good note taker is more important than what most are starting to realize, just because we are on these calls so very often. And if you have back to back and the action points that we just spoke about, some of them are becoming really good at doing that. And then they also create a task within a CRM, right? So the follow ups becomes a lot easier and everything's kind of connected. If you're using outreach efforts, again, lean back on your CRM or have something like Outreach or one of those type of tools, right? So again, you want to make sure all you're trying to do in the early stage is pick up on sound bites, and you're trying to work through, am I seeing patterns here? If I make this call 50 times, is my pitch landing? So again, it's more about rehearsal. I think of sports, right? We practice more than we play. It's the same type of thing. So tech stack is relevant to what you're trying to achieve. Make sure it serves a purpose. Don't just go buying fancy tech just because you've seen someone like me post, this is my tech stack, because that tech stack may not be the right fit for you given your stage. So again, stage is important.
Cool. Shall we go on to, I'd like to go on a little bit of deep space, and then I would like to move to a couple of Ricky's posts, because he puts out some great content which we should dissect if we get to that point, of course. So we picked a few that few that we could go into. But yeah, Ricky, we didn't really speak too much about deep space. So if you could give us the what word should I use? Lowdown for this.
Lowdown. I haven't had that in
Speaking
in a
like an
while.
engineer now.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Deep space, in a very short summary, is construction project management software. It's got AI enabled from day one. So it's built on the latest tech. Its advantage over anything else that exists in the market is that because it's so new, it's AI first. So it has the ability of doing a lot of the stuff that we just spoke about in the go-to-market tech stack within the construction project management world. So AI agent Kai can sit on your drawings, your BIM models, your emails. It can surface any information that you want, and then it can go, well, Martin sent me an email maybe last month. It was in relation to this PDF drawing. Go look for it, or this variation has come through. I don't remember its true source. It can go do that. But not just that, it also then works through your operational side of the business. So it has the ability to map out your costings, look at your project schedule. So it can kind of do your project running, project forecasting. We're also building out, tendering. So it'll be a full project management suite that's got AI enabled from the get-go. What makes it exciting is, as I just mentioned before, it's new. It's come from BIM world, so the founders were very strong in the design engineering concept. So we built out the design parts of it first, and we're on some of the biggest Australian projects, and then now have the ability to kind of come down market and be this all-in-one project management suite. So quite excited about this one, actually.
So you're targeting, so your like entry into the market, I suppose, is through to the design teams first and foremost.
It was traditionally, but I think where it's now landed is we've gone into the mid-sized builders. So that's the sweet spot for the business in terms of the ICP. That's where they're running multiple projects. They have a few project managers. There is enough momentum, or I guess a lot of data that's coming through in the business that's siloed. So there's a lot of spreadsheets, Microsoft Project, or P6, one of the accounting or financial packages. A lot of files that are moving around. So the fact we have CDE, the fact we can track costings, the fact we can look at program scheduling. So that all ties into one. So yeah, that's what makes it unique.
How different are you than Procore?
Procore, brilliant business, great business. I've known of them for many, many years. Great team. I was always looked up to them. How are we different? We're different in the sense it's newer. It's very Australian in that sense. It's come from, as I mentioned before, it's very strong on the design and the BIM side tools. And then we've kind of worked our way, and then bringing our subset knowledge that we gained in the places like simPro, and bringing that, multiple workflows in the business. So different but similar.
Mm-hmm. And are you, Ricky, obviously based in, I actually saw a map the other day and it had Oceania on Australia, and it made me think, it brings me back to like my primary school of learning the continent. So what do we call the region where you guys are? Is it
That's
Oceania?
officially, yeah, on the FIFA, as per the FIFA rules, we're Oceania.
Maybe that's where I saw it actually, because I was playing FIFA with my nephew.
I've heard Australasia, I've heard
Yeah.
ANZ, Pacific, west of America. I've heard all sorts. So I
West
think Oceania is probably the truth, and I think Pacific is probably the second
Down under.
closest. But Australia is the continent and a country which is unique in itself. So they're our
Yeah.
neighbors. We're brothers in arms in that sense. I'm in New Zealand.
So yeah, is that mostly where your customers are right now? Are you targeting more globally, or are you sort of like branching? Are you like trying to win Australia and then move to the rest of the world? How does it work?
Great question. Obviously, leaning back on our experience, we would love to take it far and wide and take on the world. But like all things, you've got to, I think we're working very closely with our home-based customers that are considered to be ANZ, that have very sophisticated business needs. The good thing about Australia and New Zealand is that given our building compliance and standards and regulations and construction standards are large, if things work well here, we have the ability to take it to the world. So we do have some green shoot customers in Middle East, in North America and Asia, but ANZ is the primary focus for the time being.
Sifting through the website, I can see you have very transparent pricing. So there's a price for a year, for example, and that is for the whole access to unlimited users, or that is for one user. What's your view on pricing, and how did you come up with the current one?
I've been a huge fan of transparent pricing, especially in construction. Construction is all about feast or famine, right? I think you end up winning a lot of projects, and then sometimes depending on the where you find yourself in the project life cycle. So this is going through the journey and then leaning back on the experience. Always want to make sure that software has to be value add, and it shouldn't really penalize you when you're doing well. So steered clear of usage-based pricing or revenue-based pricing. It's transparent pricing, so it's per workspace or per business. Martin, to answer your question, flat pricing, unlimited users. And so, as I said, we have different modules: health and safety, quality. We cover a whole bunch of things, but it's not modular either. So flatline pricing. How we came up with that, it really is a case of, well, the problem we're solving, the effort it takes, the value it brings to the business, and it's just been based on a lot of customer feedback.
How Ricky, where, like, just to grasp sort of where the business is in its journey, like where in terms of funding or stage, and amount, if that's public information, and also just size of team.
Yeah, so we're kind of in that pre-seed stage. Business is sub 5 million ARR. We're trying to keep the machine quite lean. As we said, founders 10Xs, so we try and do as much as we can ourselves. We do have a team. We got up to close to about 20 people in headcount. So that's kind of how we're running things. We rely on in-house teams as much as possible, and we do have some good friends that bring in some fractional expertise as and when necessary. There's also the venture on expertise that comes to the table. So collectively, it's an A team.
Yeah.
Can you give us a view, or your view on how the future of product management is going to look like from software point of view?
Man, that's a good question. Look, everything I'm seeing, the technical moat is now getting narrower, right? So I think a lot of it is about, creativity, like your ideas, with the help of AI, I think what you're now able to achieve with some of the tools is insane. So product management to me is really just now tied in with very closely to customer voice, trying to take live feedback. For us, it's very much they're part of the CS as far as we're concerned at Deep Space. So they take a lot of live sound bites and they go back into the product. So keeping that feedback loop is hugely important for us, especially in this early stage. Now, that will evolve as the time progresses. We don't all know what AI will be able to do in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, the fact in my opinion, we're probably 2 years into this AI wave, and it's incredible what it can do. So if you have good senior product people in your business, and then you have some really great up and coming juniors, I think you can achieve wonderful things. But I do believe gone are the days when you need an army of devs and product engineers to kind of get you to where you need to. I don't know if that kind of answers your question, Martin.
Here's an interesting question. What's your thoughts on running into the AI wave or waiting on the safe shores so that everyone else can kind of put the chips into the AI race rather than participating and perhaps losing anyway?
I think a lot of it comes down to
I think lots of people can spend a lot of money, probably VC money, trying to catch up with everyone else. But with such a pace of development and improvement of these language models, what is it? Does it make sense? What's our thoughts here?
I look at, again, each of their own. It's hard to give advice on these things. I think a lot of it just comes down to your own personal risk appetite and who you are. I've always been a believer that you need to continuously test and challenge yourself. So if there's a better way to do certain things, and if within your means, you should do it. Now, if you've got a lot of access to a lot of capital and you have the ability to burn that capital just to try and get to wherever you need to get to in terms of your vision, then good for you. That's not the approach we take. We're very balanced in our thinking, and we're very much about, to me, AI is just another tool. So yes, it's important. You should use it. It'd still be like cars became available, horse carts have gone, right? So phones became available, old analog cameras are gone. So it's a wave that I think is here and it's going to stick. So I think you can make some calculation and jump on the bandwagon when it feels right for you. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, our tool is AI powered. So we got onto that wave quite early and we found a really good use case and we deployed it in that sense. So we continue to learn from our customers. We take feedback, we improve it. So for us, it was very much about use case. How can AI help our customers? Let's bring that in and then deploy it rather than just slap on AI because it gives you better multiples or your enterprise value increases. So that wasn't the focus.
Guys, I think we just got roughly 10 minutes, so I figured that I would share my screen to show the post because it would
Did you accept all the invites?
Yeah. Cleared the inbox. No, it wasn't too bad. Okay, let's share.
I don't know what you're going to show up.
I sent them to you this morning, Ricky. So hopefully it's. By the way, you wrote them, so hopefully you're familiar.
Absolutely.
This is you, right, Ricky? This is Ricky Septa that we're speaking to.
That's I believe so. It's not my AI duplicate, so that's myself.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go then. Okay, I shared a random tab. It didn't tell me what tab it was. So this post came up and it says, good VP of sales in 2019 versus good VP of sales in 2025. Same title, whole different game. Ricky, I guess, what's the best way? Just speak to us about this?
Yeah.
Oh, I think a lot of it we already touched on it. I think we spoke about like pre-AI days. It was all about hustle, grid, more calls. Do you remember boiler rooms or sales floor mindset? Like there was a lot of that, deep domain expertise. I think we touched on that, right? So I think you fast forward to 2025 and to your point, I think good HubSpot, CRM has the ability to do a lot of things, right? So there should be no reason to do spray and pray. You should, enrich your data set. You should reach out to the right people, look at engagement through your website, who's landing on your, particular pricing page. So use the tools that are available to you, forecast and make sure everything's kind of buttoned up from the early days. So as I mentioned, get into the habits of data hygiene, use good AI note takers, feed it back into your task list. So for me, this was more about how much my world has changed and if I can see how I have had to evolve, what good look like, my version of 2019 look like versus what I'm having to do in 2025. So when I write my post, I kind of always just go, what was I doing? What would I be doing versus what I'm doing now? And I put myself in those shoes.
Hey guys, what do you? This has just triggered a thought within me. I'm not suggesting that this post says this, but if you think like when new tools come out, like AI, and people are like it's making people more productive and so on and so forth, I actually think that it's giving people more work because you're still working X amount of hours per week, but you're just doing different things. So I'm not sure I buy necessarily the argument that I think these tools make you more productive. I think it's just a different way of doing it because it still worked back then.
Yeah, but that's the point I make
correct.
every single week to you for the last 3 years.
Oh, you finally converted me. Congratulations.
The technology is not great if it doesn't solve the problem because it just adds up to your workload, and
that's correct.
It needs to really do something rather than, oh, I can do this now, I can do that, I can do everything, great, but I don't have the time.
Absolutely. I think it makes good into great, but if you're average or bad, it's not necessarily going to improve what you're doing, right? So podcast is a good example, having done a few of these, what the likes of Riverside and others can do in terms of editing and remove the white noise. Or I think finding a good use case, to your point, Martin, and then applying the first principles. But yeah, when used correctly, it can make things smarter. I went back in the days, if I had to do an account research, I would have had to call 5 people on a particular account. Now what I can achieve through these LLMs and good tool is absolutely amazing. So BDR in this day and age and the information they hold, ABM and all those kind of things is absolutely amazing. So yeah, don't just be stuck on horse cart. I think we all now driving cars can get up to speed was kind of the motive behind that particular post.
Very good. I'm looking to return to the days where there's many sales book I've read that says that the author that wrote it was a salesperson who used to bring cleaning products to offices, and he built up his sales skills that way. So I'm looking forward to the return, the full circle. Okay, let's close this one. Shall we go to the next one?
So this is becoming a diary of Ricky's LinkedIn.
This is like a quiz show now. We go from dating show at the beginning to quiz show.
Every week there's a bomb.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, if you produce good content, then this is what happens, Ricky. So
thank you, man. I appreciate the support.
Okay.
Good CRO versus bad CRO. Again, I was talking to myself. When you don't know what you're doing and you first jump in the seat, you just go, close rate is this, so therefore naturally sales haven't brought in enough good leads, and therefore you spread the blame. You literally are just guessing and assuming things. What you then, you fast forward a few years, and if you're successful in that role, you are very structured in how you read the data, and you also look at things sideways. I'll go back to my bow tie. And that's where the RevOps becomes extremely important, right? So you work with your different teams and you kind of go, okay, our run rate was this, our average selling price is this. So based on this, we're going to get there. On top of this, I've also then worked with my marketing teams. I work with our partnership teams. I work with our RevOps team to try and come up with a story. Otherwise, the last thing you want to do as a CRO of a PE-backed company is rock up in a board meeting and assume things are going to happen versus have a clear plan. So that's where that particular post comes from.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the great CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer, has 22% of sales compared to 20 of the bad one.
2% makes all the difference, right?
Yeah. I would have one for you, like how
Yeah.
people should be establishing the targets in the right way.
Which are you talking about? Quotas? Are you talking about
Sales
business
targets.
sales targets? So yeah, I think you got to do a bottom up funnel. I think a lot of businesses make the mistake of looking at previous year and then kind of going, okay, if I times that by 20% increase this year,
That's
or
what I
if I
do.
just, I mean, if Owen was my VP of sales, that's how it would have handled my target. But, you know, to be fair to him, if I wanted to make sure that it was not only was he successful, but his team was successful, I'd often go out to the team and go, okay, what did we achieve last year? What are we truly capable of achieving this year? What would they look like? So work your funnel bottom up, right? So can my rep handle more demos? What does a demo look like? Where should they sit? What are they capable of? So work through individual quotas, work through their bandwidth, and then you work with your partners, whether it be marketing teams, your CS teams, and you kind of work your funnel from bottom up. Then you get to the point where you're working with CFO to go, okay, I understand your expectations are here. I'm here. I'm going to need additional $2 million in marketing spend, and I'm going to need extra 5 reps or whatever that may be. But you have a lot more color and structure to your thinking. Whereas what I often find when it's not great is what this particular post talks about is that targets are literally just bloated. No one hits them. And then what happens is after a quarter or two, teams are actually demoralized, or they just go, it doesn't matter anymore because we never hit our target. So targets are no longer realistic. Marketing is very much like, oh, let's go content. Oh, let's go YouTube videos now. By the way, let's now start posting on LinkedIn. Oh, should we also do
That's
a
what we do.
billboard? Yeah. Should we also then go attend 5 trade shows? And,
That's not
like
what
We don't
everyone's
do
kind of
that.
left in the dark. I know. I think we joke about this, but the sad reality is that so many businesses kind of run in this, approach. Customer success is often just kind of, things are just dumped on them. No one really thinks through. Sales is so focused on closing the sale, they hand it over the fence. It's the whole ICP framework is not really followed through. And the point of this was, if you get it right, you're set up to win, and everyone wins, and you're working collectively. Even though that sounds very obvious sometimes, you'll be surprised how many businesses are structured poorly to begin with.
I think it's very difficult. People have good intentions, and then I don't know, perhaps things are going well, so you become a bit complacent because you're taking your eye off that's what's happening underneath the surface. And I think it feels good to feel like you're doing this stuff, or at least talking about it, rather than doing it.
Of course.
Which
Yeah.
is tricky.
And also not knowing what to do, right? I think, bringing back to our mate, Lewis Hamilton again, he doesn't just get to be a Formula One driver, right? Like he has to go through the pain of so many practices and work his way up. And I think it's very much, I think people forget in tech, like it's not easy, and it's not easy for a reason. When you're doing it for the first time, you're guessing a lot. And that makes it that much harder.
I have nothing to add, but I just that I like your reverse engineering approach rather than
Okay.
very pragmatic.
Well, that was post number 3. We have
Oh, thank you for the love, Owen.
we've got 15 more to go, so let's try the next one.
Oh, man. Awesome.
Oh, good.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I think that's probably time for us. So, Ricky, thank you so much for joining us. Anything you want to shout out to the audience? Any initiatives you're running at the minute? Where can people find out more about you? Take it where you want.
Absolutely. Well, you just put up my LinkedIn profile, so please reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always here chatting with people on DMs and stuff. So if I could be of any value to you, no matter where you are in the world, please do reach out. Thank you once again, Owen and Martin. And yeah, Deep Space, check it out. It goes through my profile, or just jump on our website, deepspacegroup.ai. And thanks very much for having me on again.
Thank you, Ricky.
Cool. Thanks, Ricky.
Yeah, you're welcome.